Let's say you have an assignment that requires both primary and secondary sources. How do you identify those, and where do you find them? Chances are that you're familiar with a variety of primary and secondary sources and use them in everyday life. However, locating primary sources about an academic topic can sometimes be difficult. So what are primary sources? Primary sources are first-hand accounts of an event and are created during the time that event took place. They can also be created retrospectively at a later date by a participant in those events. They are original documents and usually don't describe or analyze other documents. They can also be creative works. Some examples of primary sources are speeches, laws, and court documents, diaries, memoirs, autobiographies, and letters, works of art, novels, and plays, documented observations, interviews, original research, and data, and historical newspapers. So how can primary sources be used for research? They can be used as a focal point of a discussion about events. They can be used to back up claims or criticisms. They can be used as evidence for theories and research. And they can be used to gain historical perspectives on a topic. So what are secondary sources? Secondary sources are written by scholars or observers after the fact and interpret or analyze primary sources or events. These sources are at least one step removed from what they are describing. Some examples of secondary sources are textbooks, encyclopedias, essays, and reviews, magazine or journal articles which analyze events or ideas, and books which provide a summary of events or synthesize information from many primary sources. So how are secondary sources used? They can be used to get background information and understand the scope of a topic. They can be used to see what others have discussed or get opinions. You can use them to learn how recent events affect or fit into the larger picture. And they can help you understand the significance of events, data, works of literature, and art. Let's look at an example. A primary source for a paper about the placebo effect could be data from a medical trial which was published in an academic journal. Secondary sources for this topic could include books about medication, the placebo effect, and health in general, or websites which define various anxiety disorders. One thing to keep in mind is that a source's classification as either primary or secondary can change depending on the topic that you're studying. For example, if you are writing about how the news is being represented on the Internet, a news site like CNN might be considered a primary source. If you're studying news on the Internet, CNN.com represents the object that you're studying. However, if you're writing about political elections and you find an article on CNN.com that analyzes them, the article would be considered a secondary source. Since in this case you're studying the elections, an article on CNN.com is one step removed from your topic. For an effective research paper, try to use both primary sources, sources that are an original source of data, historical information, or creative works, as well as secondary sources, sources which summarize, analyze, or comment on ideas or events.
Hello class, can I explain any marketing concepts?
Professor Siegfried, can you explain what qualitative research is?
Well, Sarah, qualitative research focuses on subjective data that is not easily coded into numbers. The emphasis is on words and feelings rather than numbers. Qualitative research tends to work with fewer subjects or respondents, cases, but analyzes each case to a deeper level. It is particularly useful when marketing needs answers to questions relating to motivation and emotions such as consumer needs and perceptions, subjective opinions, brand images, brand personality and testing of advertisements. It follows that qualitative analysis is a set of techniques specifically developed to analyze qualitative data like content analysis, text analysis, and conceptual analysis. Key qualitative research techniques include focus groups and observational techniques like the disposable camera method for the observation of behavior in natural settings.
Thanks, Professor, for explaining qualitative research.
Hello class, can I explain any marketing concepts?
Professor Siegfried, what is quantitative research?
Well, Lulu, quantitative research is numerically focused. It requires detailed attention to the measurement of market phenomena and often involves statistical analysis. For example, a hotel might interview its customers to rate its overall service as either excellent, good, poor or very poor. This will provide quantitative information that can be analyzed statistically. The main rule with quantitative research is that every respondent is asked the same series of questions. The approach is very structured and normally involves large numbers of interviews, questionnaires. A very popular quantitative technique is the market research survey. These are basically projects that involve the collection of data from multiple cases, such as consumers or a set of products. Quantitative surveys can be conducted by using face-to-face interviews, telephone interviews, email or web techniques. The questionnaire is one of the more popular tools for collecting data from a survey, but it is only one of many data collection aids.
Thanks, Professor, for this explanation of quantitative research.